March 8th, 2014. A night that began like any other for the passengers of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, departing from Kuala Lumpur, bound for Beijing. They had no idea they were about to become part of one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history. As the aircraft descended into the darkened skies above Southeast Asia, something went terribly wrong. An hour after takeoff, contact was lost, and the flight disappeared from radar. No distress calls, no warnings, just a sudden and an inexplicable silence. 239 souls, including passengers and crew, were aboard that fateful flight, and their final moments remain shrouded in mystery. In the days, weeks, and months that followed, one of the largest and most complex search efforts ever undertaken unfolded in the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean. Yet, despite all the technology, expertise, and resources dedicated to finding the wreckage, the plane, and the truth, no definitive answers have emerged. Tonight on Time Warp Thursday, we return to the disappearance of Flight MH370. We will dive deep into the conflicting theories, the strange anomalies, and the chilling possibilities that continue to haunt this case. Was it a tragic accident, a malfunction, or something far darker? Could this have been an act of sabotage, or even a deliberate and calculated maneuver? As we piece together the puzzle, we will explore the eerie coincidences and shadowy details that suggest this may be no ordinary aviation tragedy. And in the face of unanswered questions, we will ask, what if the truth is something beyond our understanding? Join us as we venture into the unknown, where reality, speculation, and mystery converge in an enigma that has yet to be solved. Stay tuned and prepare to step into the shadows of Flight MH370, where every theory feels like a different path to the truth, and none lead to a satisfying answer.
The following is rated TV MA and is intended only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion advised.
Good evening, listeners, and welcome to Time Warp Thursday here on Talk Radio. I'm your host, Jonathan Riley, and tonight we're delving into one of the most chilling and haunting mysteries to ever rock the world. It's May 8th, 2025, and we're going back in time to the year 2014 to a disappearance that has baffled the entire world. The vanishing of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. I'm sure many of you remember the headlines, the confusion, and the speculation that followed. But what really happened to this flight? It's a question that continues to torment families, experts, and conspiracy theorists alike. Now, before we dive in, let's take a moment to think about something. We are already over 35% through 2025. Time flies, doesn't it? But in the case of MH370, time is something that's almost stood still. For over a decade, the mystery of this flight has haunted the world's imagination. Despite extensive searches, countless theories, and years of speculation, the truth remains elusive. And tonight, we're going to explore the events that unfolded on that fateful night, the theories that have kept the world guessing, and the compelling leads that just might bring us closer to an answer. Flight MH370 was carrying 279 passengers and crew members when it disappeared from radar, leaving behind nothing but questions and shattered hope. The journey that began on May 8th, 2014 was supposed to be just another routine flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. But what happened after the final communication was received? What led to the complete loss of contact? Was it a catastrophic failure, or is there something more sinister at play here? Tonight, we're going to take you on a journey through the theories, the evidence, and the strange and unsettling clues that continue to surface. From rogue pilots and military failure to the possibility of a hijacking or even a cover-up. We'll discuss it all. We will also talk about the devastating aftermath, the search that spanned vast stretches of ocean, the breakthroughs, the dead ends, and the unanswered questions that still keep experts up at night. So buckle up, because tonight's journey is not just about revisiting an unsolved mystery. It's about exploring the unknown, where the line between fact and fiction blurs, and where each theory offers its own chilling twist. What happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370? And what if the answers we seek are buried deep beneath the ocean's surface, waiting to be discovered? Stay with us as we piece together the puzzle that has left the world questioning the very nature of reality, aviation, and what really happened on that night in 2014. On the night of March 8th, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport, heading for Beijing. A routine flight. It was carrying 239 people, passengers, and crew on board. The plane, a Boeing 777-200ER, was widely regarded as a reliable and safe aircraft, with no prior indications that anything was amiss. The passengers settled in for what was expected to be a typical long-haul flight. But just over an hour into the journey at 1:21 a.m., the plane sent its final communication to air traffic control. That brief, seemingly ordinary signal would be the last known contact between the plane and the outside world. After that, the flight vanished from radar. The disappearance took place somewhere over the South China Sea, and what should have been a routine flight took a haunting turn into one of aviation's greatest mysteries. For hours, no one knew where MH370 had gone. The flight's radar data, which had been tracking the plane's progress, simply stopped. No distress call, no explanation, just an eerie silence. The last known position was somewhere in the southern part of the South China Sea. But from that point onward, everything went dark. The flight was gone. A plane with hundreds of lives aboard vanished without a trace. As news of the disappearance spread, panic and confusion began to set in. Authorities scrambled to piece together any available information, but there was nothing concrete to explain what had happened to the aircraft. Was it a mechanical failure? A hijacking? Something else entirely? The questions were endless, and the answers were nowhere to be found. The search for MH370 quickly became one of the largest and most complex search operations in aviation history. Dozens of countries, including Malaysia, Australia, and China, mobilized resources. Satellites, search vessels, and aircraft scoured vast stretches of ocean, trying to locate any sign of the missing plane. But despite but despite years of searching, no one was able to confirm the plane's exact location. The majority of the wreckage still remains a mystery. There were, however, some pieces of the puzzle that turned up. Over the following years, several small pieces of debris from the aircraft washed up on islands along the Indian Ocean. From the shores of Reunion Island to the coast of Madagascar, these fragments confirmed that the plane had indeed crashed somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean, but the exact location of the wreckage has remained elusive. The search efforts were monumental, involving advanced underwater technology, the tracking of satellite data, and even the use of private companies' resources. But despite the immense effort, the final resting place of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 is still a mystery, and it continues to haunt those who were involved in the search, as well as the families of those who were lost. Now, let's talk about what happened next. The investigation into the disappearance of MH370 became a global spectacle, full of theories, conspiracy theories, and unanswered questions. How did this plane vanish? And where did it go? What secrets does the ocean still hold? The search may have officially ended in 2018, but the mystery of Flight MH370 lives on, and the questions that remain are far from answered. There are countless theories that attempt to explain what happened to Flight MH370, from mechanical failure to hijacking, and even the wild conspiracy theories. The possibilities are endless. But what do we know for sure? Well, we have some evidence, but it's far from conclusive. Let's take a look at some of the most widely discussed theories and examine what we know or don't know about each one. Number one, mechanical failure. The plane just broke theory. Some some experts have suggested that the plane experienced a catastrophic mechanical failure mid-flight. This could have been something like a sudden decompression or a failure in the aircraft's critical systems, leaving the crew unable to respond in time. The fact that the plane continued flying for several hours after losing contact is one of the key points, often cited by proponents of this theory. But here's the catch. Why didn't the planes communicate with air traffic control or issue a distress signal? Why did the plane fly off course so deliberately? Number two, hijacking, the terrorist attack theory. Hijacking is one of the most talked about possibilities. Some believe that the plane was taken over by someone on board, either for political reasons or as part of a terrorist act. There are a couple of pieces of evidence that have fueled this theory. The fact that the aircraft's communication systems were turned off manually and the plane's sudden change in course, However, no group has taken responsibility for the attack, and the plane's disappearance has not followed the typical patterns of a hijacking. Number 3. Pilot involvement. The inside job theory. Another theory suggests that one or both pilots were involved in the disappearance. Some have pointed to the captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, suggesting that he may have deliberately diverted the plane off course. Proponents of this theory cite the captain's flight simulator, which allegedly contained waypoints similar to the flight path taken by MH370. But it's important to note that there's no hard evidence linking the captain to the disappearance. While some find this theory compelling, it's also purely speculative at this point. Number 4. Fire on board. The slow burn theory. Some believe that a fire broke out on board, causing the crew to lose control of the aircraft. The theory suggests that the fire could have disabled key systems, including communication and navigation. This could explain why the plane made a series of erratic turns, as the crew would have been trying to manage the fire. The problem with this theory, though, is that the lack of wreckage or signs of fire damage in the debris found doesn't align with what we'd expect from such a catastrophic event. Number 5. The conspiracy theories, alien abduction, black hole, and more. Now, this is where things get really wild. A number of bizarre conspiracy theories have sprung up around the disappearance of MH370. Some people have suggested that the plane was involved in a secret military operation and that the government is hiding the truth. Others have gone as far as claiming the plane was sucked into a black hole or even abducted by aliens. While these theories are fascinating, they are also far-fetched and not based on any solid evidence. Number 6. Official findings and investigations. Following the disappearance, the investigation led by the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, ATSB, launched an extensive search across the vast area in the southern Indian Ocean, based on satellite data that showed the plane's movements after it lost contact. Despite years of searching and hundreds of millions of dollars spent, only small pieces of wreckage have been found washed up on the shores of various islands. This has led to the official conclusion that the plane likely crashed into the ocean, but no one knows for certain why it veered so far off course. The search has since been scaled back, but the mystery remains unsolved. As you can see, there's no shortage of theories, each one presenting its own set of questions and possibilities. But the truth is, we may never know exactly what happened to MH370. Some argue that the official narrative doesn't add up, while others believe the plane's disappearance is simply a tragic accident. What's clear, however, is that the families of the passengers and the world still demand answers. One of the most perplexing pieces of evidence in the MH370 mystery comes from the satellite data, a series of handshakes or automated signals between the plane's satellite communication system and the satellite orbiting above the Indian Ocean suggests that the plane continued flying for several hours after it lost contact with air traffic control. These handshakes are not traditional communication signals like voice or radar contact. Instead, they are automated pings sent by the aircraft's satellite communication system to a satellite, confirming the aircraft's position and status. What makes these pings so crucial is that they indicate the plane was still in the air and functioning, at least to some extent, after it seemingly vanished from radar screens. However, the precise path that MH370 took during these hours remains one of the biggest mysteries. Despite intense efforts, experts are still unsure about the flight's exact route and the reasons behind its deviation from its planned course. The final satellite ping, received at 8:19 a.m. on March 8th, placed the plane somewhere in the remote southern Indian Ocean, far from its intended flight path, and far off the coast of Australia. This is a region with vast unexplored waters, making search efforts extremely difficult. Over the years, extensive searches have scoured parts of the ocean, guided by these pings and satellite analysis. But despite finding some records on distant shores of islands across the Indian Ocean, no definitive wreckage or debris field has ever been traced to this area, where the plane is believed to have ended its journey. This has only added to the mystery. Why hasn't the plane been found, and how could it disappear in such an expansive and remote part of the world? The search for wreckage has been ongoing, with efforts concentrated in the 120,000 square kilometer area known as the Seventh Arc, where the final satellite communication pointed to. The data, some debris, has been discovered on the shores of nearby islands, such as a winged flaperon found on Reunion Island in 2015. But it, but it remains unclear whether these pieces are directly linked to the plane's final crash site or if they simply drifted from elsewhere in the ocean. This leaves us with more questions than answers. Could the plane have gone down in such a remote area, or is there another explanation for its disappearance? Were the satellite pings a sign of a gradual loss of control or deliberate action? And most importantly, what does this fragmented evidence tell us about the fate of MH370? Now, let's talk about the most crucial part. Where could the plane be? The search the search zone is vast, and there are many theories on where MH370 might have ended up. Some believe it crashed into the depths of the southern Indian Ocean, where the underwater terrain is treacherous, and it could easily remain undiscovered for years, if not decades. The ocean is vast and difficult to navigate, with depths reaching over 20,000 feet deep in certain areas. Despite the extensive search efforts, no definitive wreckage has been found beyond some debris that washed up on various shores, adding to the mystery. Then there's the theory that the plane may have been hidden in a remote location, somewhere far from the prying eyes of satellites and searchers. Some suggest that it could have been flown to a secluded island or a hidden airstrip. It's a chilling possibility that the plane could be sitting somewhere in plain sight, yet completely untouched, hiding under the radar. Another dark theory is that the plane might have been hijacked and flown to a secret military base. There are rumors that it could have been diverted to a remote airfield where it's being kept under heavy surveillance, possibly for reasons unknown to the public. Could there have been covert operations at play here? Or is there a much larger, more complex conspiracy involved? All of these theories present tantalizing possibilities, but they also add to the frustration. With so many potential locations, it begs the question, why hasn't any solid evidence been found? Could there be a truth that's being unintentionally hidden? The search efforts have been incredible, but the plane still eludes us, leaving us with more questions than answers. What do you think? Could the plane still be out there, waiting to be found? Or is it possible that we may never know the full story? As we come to the close of tonight's episode, I want to leave you with one final thought. The mystery of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 is far from over. In fact, it might never truly be solved. There are so many questions, so many theories, some grounded in reality, others bordering on the edge of the unknown. But the biggest question remains, what happened to MH370? Could the truth be hidden in plain sight, or will it stay buried beneath layers of secrecy forever? I want to hear your thoughts and theories. Do you think the official story holds water, or are you leaning towards some of the more bizarre explanations that have surfaced over the years? Do you think we'll ever get the answers we're so desperately searching for, or has the truth been lost to time? Drop your thoughts and theories into chat now, and I'll read a few of them live on air. Let's continue this conversation and see where our minds can take us. We've only scratched the surface tonight, and there are many more twists and turns to this story that we didn't even touch on. Whether it's the mysterious satellite pings, the conspiracy theories surrounding the passengers, or the eerie silence of the cockpit. The truth about what happened to MH370 may remain one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in aviation history. But it's a mystery that continues to captivate the world. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to Time Warp Thursday. Your curiosity, your questions, and your participation are what makes these discussions truly unforgettable. Make sure to join us next week when we dive into another mind-bending mystery that will have you questioning everything you thought you knew. Until then, keep asking the hard questions. Keep exploring the unknown. And above all, keep your eyes on the skies. You never know what mysteries might be waiting for us just out of sight.